Hildred has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
Right, so fantastic. So Huddersfield Town 1, Southampton 1. Who saw that coming, Tom? It's a mixed reaction, let's say.
It is.
To it I've seen online. I've seen some people say it was horrendous. I've seen other people say it was a great second half and a good point. I'm sure that will spark enough debate. So the purpose of this show this evening is not to listen to us talk, it's to let other people talk, let the Town fans talk. If you've got something that you want to come and get off your chest, come and unload, come and have a word with us, and we're here to listen. That's all we're here for. So what we want to do is act like a phone-in of sorts, if you like. So if you fancy having a chat with us, putting your point across, use the request to speak button, and what we'll do is we'll add you in as and when we can do so, or when it's safe to do so. And I will bow out when Jerry manages to take himself off mute, which is another thing. I think we'll just blame Elon Musk for this, won't we, Tom? So
yeah, I think that's a great idea, Matt. It was in my settings. I had to allow access. That's what it was. So now he hears everything that I do.
There we go. So Jerry probably needs to do something same. He did warn us, didn't he, that he was slightly technophobic over there. It's not exactly Silicon Valley. It's more Greenbow, Alabama, isn't it, than Silicon Valley. But we love Jerry all the same. So hopefully that's it. So if you do want to chat about the game today, make sure you send a request in, and we will bring people in as and when. So people don't want me to speak because I'll be on the main podcast tomorrow. So please, anybody who wants to chat about the game, any points that you make. So we've just generally jotted down a number of talking points, haven't we, Tom, about the game itself. There's an early penalty shout, which I don't think a lot of people saw. It seemed to flick up and hit the Southampton right back on the arm. We're looking at sort of the performances, the first half, the negative setup, I think riled certainly a large element of the crowd, and the substitution as well when Yuta Nakayama came on for the injured Kian Harrett seemed to upset quite a lot of people, because it was a case of bringing a defender on for a striker, and I think that, especially with the shape that we set up with the 5-4-1, just to be blunt, pissed a lot of people off, didn't it? But needs must. Delano Bergzorg apparently wasn't fit enough to play for the 70 minutes or so at the time. I think it was the 18th minute, wasn't it, when Harrett went down? So, I think they've taken the view that Bergzorg wasn't fit enough to play for the rest of the game. Otherwise, he would have had to come on and then be subbed off again. But so there's that we can talk about. The crowd as well. The crowd was pretty low. I think, have people given up? Did you not come to the game today? Is there a reason why? I almost didn't come. So I think a lot of people probably felt that way, and I don't blame you. But on the positive side, we've seen a more of a spirited second half performance there, haven't we, Tom, as well? So there's they've not rolled over and died against a team that's, let's not forget, a good Southampton team that are going for the top 2 this season. They're not here just to finish mid-table. And we've had one or two decent performances in there as well. Ben Jackson continues to impress at right back, which, I don't think anybody would have thought he'd be saying that at the start of the season. He's come in today and he's grown in confidence throughout this little run that he's had. And he's got down the right-hand side, cutting onto his favoured left and whipped the ball into the far corner. Shall we give him credit for meaning it? I think it's one of those cross shots, isn't it, where if somebody touches it, it's happy days, but if somebody doesn't, it's happy days again.
It's a beautiful cross there, Matt. It's a beautiful cross. There's not much you can do about that from a defensive point of view. You stick a leg out, it goes anywhere. Keepers does he commit, doesn't it? It's you got to give I think just the credit for the cross alone. But yeah, it's definitely not a shot, is it?
No, definitely not. But it's one of those buy a ticket, win a raffle moments.
Exactly.
Isn't it? Right. Okay. So let's see if Jerry is. Nope. Jerry was sending us a red herring. Although he said request sent work this time, so let's have a look. So is Jerry in the room? Let's have a look. Let's try and add him as a speaker. I think, shall we do it for him?
Yeah. I will say, Matt, Jerry, you said who would have predicted a 1-1 result for Town today? Well, big up Brady Frost on the preview podcast did predict 1-1. He did. Optimistically predicted a 1-1 for Town. So,
well, it turned out it wasn't optimistic at all. It was perfectly.
Yeah. Jerry's in the room. Right, I can now bow out. I can leave this to Tom and Jerry. I will. So this is the thing. So for anybody that's listening, just click on the request to speak button, and we'll bring people in as and when they would like to do so. Further to this as well, I think you have to technically be on a phone. I don't think Spaces really works for people who are on any laptops or iPads or things like that. It can be a little bit problematic. Again, let's happily blame Elon Musk for this and his development team. But yeah, get involved and tell us what you thought about the game, because that's what it's all about. It's your opinion, not ours. And I will turn this over to Tom and Jerry.
Right. Well, there we go, Jerry. I mean, Jerry, how did it feel in the States watching it today before we jump anyone else on?
Yeah, God bless iFollow. Apparently, which, based on your experience, Tom, it appears that you could only watch the iFollow broadcast outside of the UK this time because Southampton, maybe something to do with them coming down for the Premier League or something, didn't seem to be working for others. So felt fortunate, #blessed there. I thought the second half was tremendous. I thought that, well, maybe tremendous is pushing it. I think, getting the winner there late on, either on Sorba's semi-breakaway that the keeper unfortunately stepped out and stopped, or maybe the random carom off of Edmonds Green's head, which almost flew into the net. And I think calling Jackson's goal super lucky would be stretching it a little bit. Certainly an element of good fortune. If Edmonds Green's quote unquote header had gone in, that would have been really, really fortunate. Not that anybody listening to this space would have been complaining. I thought it was the best 45 minutes still, even without a winner. I thought the best 45 minutes Town have played probably since Ipswich Town. Since that 1-1 draw, the first half there, they were pretty unlucky not to be ahead going into halftime. That was really good. And possibly the best 45 minutes they've played under Darren Moore. What really encouraged me was that Town created the number of chances they did. Not just, they got their goal, but obviously the Sorba header, kind of maybe fell to the wrong player. I couldn't remember Sorba having ever scored with his head before. I think if that's, a more natural kind of central striking option there in that position, they took that header away. I think, they had a couple other sort of half chances, Karoma forced a save there. But that they generated as much going forward as they did and still mostly kept an extremely strong attacking team in Southampton at arm's length for most of that half, even as they were going forward. That's been the struggle under Darren Moore, has been to sort of walk and chew gum at the same time, right? That when they've gone forward, or tried to anyway, against your Cardiffs, your Leeds, they've gotten shredded at the back. When they've kind of set up specifically to defend, as we've seen against Watford and Hull the last, couple of times out, they haven't been able to do anything going forward. So that second half really felt to me like the first time in quite a bit where we've seen them go forward, generate chances, put real pressure on an opposing defense, and at the same time keep it fairly tight at the back. Obviously, Maxwell made the one save he had to make there, towards the second half. And again, doing that against a very talented attacking team. Cozy said as much on Twitter when, we're facing a team that brings on Che Adams as their sort of final substitution late in the match. You're playing a really good team. So that was really encouraging to me.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, unfortunately, I didn't watch it, so I've watched the highlights now. I had to listen to it because I think because of Southampton, like you said, coming down, I don't think they signed up for iFollow, so I was stuck with just listening, which was actually quite a pleasant experience, a bit different to watching it. But it sounded, that second half just sounded so much better, and Glennon and Oggy said right at the end that if any team deserved a win. Now, of that second half, it was probably Town, because Town actually went for it. So yeah, if anyone listening wants to put their 2 pence in about that game or in general, I mean, there was a lot of talking points. I think it'd be good to know what people thought about the first half in particular, and did he change it around well then going into the second half? There was a lot of questions about the substitutes in the second half as well, but that actually potentially worked out for us. So please pop your names in the box and request to speak, because it'd be good to hear what everyone else thinks. I see we've got quite a few listeners, so yeah, give us a shout. Have a moan if you need, have a praise of Town, because as we touched on right at the start, it was probably a result that no one really expected today, right, Jerry?
I would not have predicted a 1-1. No, particularly once they went behind. I think if you had told me ahead of the match they finished 1-1, I would have said, okay, well, they, come out, maybe nick one in the first half and then hold on for dear life against the Saints attackers through, the remaining 60 minutes or something like that. And again, very encouraging for it to play out the opposite way, for Southampton to take the lead, particularly at an awful time, just going into halftime where, you expect more to be able to go into the half, encouraged by the fact that they've made it 0-0, to be able to sort of, in Moore's head already entering the 45th minute, he's like, okay, this is how we're going to approach the second half coming out of halftime at 0-0. And then to give up that goal right before the break just kind of scrambles everything. And particularly going against a side who can counterattack the way the Saints can. It was just an awful time to give up a goal. And so it really makes it, again, all the more encouraging, for Town to come out the second half and really right from the start of the second 45, really put the pressure on Southampton, really, generated those couple of half chances that had actual pressure. It was thrilling in some ways to reach that point where Southampton, in the last 20 minutes of the game are doing the thing we always see Town do, where they get hold of the ball for a second, and rather than look to play a pass out, they start belting the ball past midfield and just giving it back to Town's defense. I was like, I'm so used to seeing the shoe on the other foot here, where it's Town who are desperately, have everybody behind the ball, and as soon as they get it, are just looking to get rid. For the shoe to be on the other foot again, not even against a mid-table team or a fellow relegation straggler, but to be doing that against a team that I think everybody listening to this would expect to at least finish in the playoffs, possibly even challenge for an automatic promotion place. I think is really impressive. I was quite. Again, encouraged is the word that keeps coming to mind. That was an encouraging second half. Town looked like a team that should be able to pull away from the relegation zone. We're a long way away from that. But, at least this 45 minutes is way more to hang on to than some of the 45 minutes we've seen, in other matches we've had recently. I see we have a request. Matt, if you're listening, I can't figure out how to do that. Could you do the honors there?
Yeah, I'll do it. We'll bring in Chris Green. Good lad, Chris. Let's bring him in. There you go, Chris. You are on. You've muted yourself, but you're on the airwaves. So if you if you want to let us know what you thought.
The mic is now on.
Hi, Chris. You all right?
I don't want to get too positive about Darren Moore still, because I'm still not convinced about him as a manager. I love him as a bloke, but I'm not convinced still by him as a manager. I'm just so glad that we didn't lose 4-5, because I was thinking so much in my head pre-match that was going to happen. I'm so glad we got something, and I thought that second half warranted at least something from that game.
Definitely. I mean, that first half, Chris, I mean, it felt like we were kind of playing, I think, how everyone expected. Do you think
yes,
maybe at halftime, he sensed that there was a potential there for us to nick something in it?
He must have changed something, because it did work, because the feel of the game changed, because the first half was so poor. He must have changed something, and the second half was so much improved, and that's why we deserved to get the draw, because we just played with a lot more energy and positivity in first half, and I'm just glad today wasn't the typical Dazball type performance that we've got to see a lot, under Darren Moore.
I mean, there's been some people have mentioned kind of when Fotheringham came in and almost realised that he didn't have the players to play the type of football he needed to. Do you know what I mean? And then I've kind of linked that to Darren Moore being a bit more defensive. I mean, hopefully that second half brings a bit more out of him.
Yes, because I don't like to constantly see just sitting back, because it's just not adventurous. I think it's anti-football, sitting back so much and not being more adventurous and going for it, even if you are more adventurous and then you hit on the counter-attack and you concede. You want to see more excitement in your team and be more adventurous than just constantly sitting back, and that's why I call it That's why I call Darren Moore's football Dazball a lot, because it's just sitting back too much. But I'm glad I didn't see that constantly today. The second half, I definitely didn't see it. I thought there was more attacking, there was more positivity and energy, and we definitely deserved the draw. I thought Southampton weren't as good as I thought they were going to be today.
I think they played their game plan, didn't they? I think the stats show. I mean, I think when you look at all their games, they've run out on possession. But I guess you can only do so much with possession. And I think a few of their fans said that the one thing they miss is that kind of taking those chances.
I think I read something from David Prutton from Sky Sports, that they weren't winning games by a big margins anyway, and only slender margins. And I think that's obviously true. We saw that today, because even though they were winning 1-0, they were running away with it.
Yeah. So were you in the cowshed today, Chris? I mean, good to know what you thought of what did you think of the atmosphere in general?
I really liked Southampton's atmosphere today. They was really loud, and they brought 2,300. So many for a place that's literally so many miles away down on the south coast. And in February, when we go to St Mary's, we're not going to take nowhere near that same amount. We'll probably take only like a couple of hundred, 300-400. I really praised Southampton, the loud amount of noise they did.
Yeah, and then I thought that as well. I thought they sounded very loud. I mean, it was very rare you didn't hear them singing on the radio today, to be honest.
Yes.
Town fans seemed to perk up, obviously, when we were getting into that second half. I think just before we scored the goal, it sounded like it was perking up a bit. But in general, Chris, like with the... I think it said there was about 19,000 there today, but it didn't really look like it.
There was. So if you say like 19,000, so that's obviously 17,000 of us, and I think the exact figure from there who travelled from St Mary's was 2,063. So 17,000 of our lot and 2,000 of theirs.
But do you think people are putting it off at the moment? Because there seem to be a few empty seats. I wouldn't say there was 19,000.
I don't understand, how they can get such high attendance figures, and yet it still looks really empty, especially in that upper tier of the opposite end to Cowshed, the big red upper tier. It always in stadium. You can see so many seats dotted around. Maybe they still include figures of people that aren't even technically there, who haven't had their season tickets scanned, to go through turnstiles.
Yeah, I think that is probably the case. I mean, it was good to hear that the atmosphere did pick up a bit at the end. I mean, when the football gets a bit more exciting, you're going to get a bit more of a better atmosphere. You could hear that.
Yes. I know I'm a strong Darren Moore. I call myself a disliker. I'm not. I don't want to hate him for being the human being side, because I really like him for the human being side. But at the end of the day, you're judged as the job that you're paid to do, being the manager, and he's not been doing that good. It's still only 1 win in 10. That was his 10th game in charge today, wasn't it? I think.
It's one win and 10, 6 draws, is it, and 4 defeats? Five draws and 4 defeats.
Too many draw. You can have too many draws, So we haven't obviously been having turning enough of those draws into wins.
But it's one of those, isn't it? It's on a bit of a knife edge, and it's like if it can go one way or the other. He either turns those draws into wins or
Yeah, well, I'm hoping in the next week when I'm going to be on a coach down to Southampton, Swansea and Sunderland, that we get to see more of this second half type that we saw today, because I don't want to go back just after today to sitting back Daz football. I liked that second half so much, seeing so much more adventurous attacking, and I really liked it. So hopefully more to come in the next week.
I'm with you there, Chris. But do you think in that first half, if he'd have gone all out from the off, it might have been a different story altogether? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, goodness knows how it had gone in the first half. If we'd have played like second in first, you just don't know. But you just don't know. It was
one of those today, wasn't it? I think you had to expect them to have a lot of the ball, and then we'd have got them on the counter because they pushed quite a lot of players up into our half, so you were kind of playing for that space. So, it's a very good point for Town, a very, very good point. And then, I don't know, finally, Chris, you got any other comments on today in general? Anyone stand out for you from Town?
I think I've said a lot of my comments anyway, but I'll just repeat it again. I'm just so glad we didn't get thrashed, that I were proven wrong, because it's nice to be proven wrong when you're really negative about what will happen. And we just deserved to get a point because that second half warranted it so much.
We did, yeah.
And 2 really tough games on the road. Only separated by 3 bloody days, The EFL are putting us through our miles next week, going up to Sunderland. I'll get back on the coach technically after midnight on Thursday. And then just over 48 hours, I'm going down to South Wales, to Swansea. I'm putting myself through it. But despite what I think about Darren, I go through thick and thin.
Yeah. Keep the faith, Chris, innit? Keep the faith.
Well, hopefully I'll see more positive football again in the next 2 games, and I'd like to change my mood on Darren. We'll have to see.
No, that's it. You'd like to think if we can do that to Southampton in that second half, you can do it against Swansea.
Yes, it would be. I think a lot of us will be needing to apologise to Darren then, the way we've been thinking about him, if he changes it around. Football fans are so fickle, and I'm one of them, I just think it's just typical for people to be so negative, and then if they're proven wrong, we've got to start being positive then when things change.
Yeah.
All right then,
Chris. Thank you. Thanks for coming on, Chris.
Bye-bye.
Up the Town.
I think when we've looked at, more and we talk about his first 10 games in charge, I don't think anyone would argue that the results have been good enough so far. 1 win and 10 is relegation fodder. It's really how we come to think about this draw today is going to be determined by whether Town build on it over the next couple of games. When I look back at that, the Ipswich Town game that I mentioned earlier, it's 1-1. It was a great performance. Everybody says, well, that's a really good point. Now we can build on it going forward. And then they immediately come out in the following game against Birmingham City and just lay a complete egg, total stinker, lose 4-1. And really, it's felt like Town haven't recovered from that until maybe that second 45 today. So, now we look back at that Ipswich Town game, it's like really feels like a fluke, a flash in the pan, whatever. And so we kind of have to wait and see, I think, about, what really we're going to think about the second 45 today. Was this the start of something real where we've put the difficulties of this first 10 games behind us, or was it another just kind of, false positive, basically? We've got another speaker here. Matt, you want to put on Lee for us?
Yeah. Go to the studio where Matt will link up Lee.
He's in. Lee's just on mute, but he's just come off now. So in you go, Lee.
Hey, guys. You all right?
Hi, Lee. How are you doing, mate? You good?
Yeah, well, it makes a change going away from a Town game. I'm actually quite upbeat, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not so bad, to be honest. Just on game. I thought when I was watching first half, I said to my mate, it's a bit like watching Fozzie Ball, this. It brought me right back to last year where we were just sitting back, trying to keep it 0-0 till the 70th minute and ultimately not doing. And then just trying to chase the game, really. But I think first half's one of them. They're a really good side on the ball. And there was a load of fans moaning about, like, we're not pressing them and that, but they were playing so wide and they've got such good midfield players. You can't do that unless you're a good side.
Yeah, exactly.
So first half, I understood why he did it as frustrating as it was. And then, obviously, when he brought Nakayama on, Jesus Christ, everyone wanted his head, didn't they? Bloody hell.
What did you think of that, Lee? Because it was obviously... I don't think they were booing Nakayama, were they? I think they were booing the decision not to basically bring Berzog on, wasn't it? But obviously, I don't think he's ready for that many minutes yet. But what did you think of like the kind of atmosphere of that substitution? Really, because I always find that it can get quite bad at Town when the fans get on your back, and it didn't sound too good that when he made that substitution.
No, like. Well, obviously, he knows more than we do, doesn't he? So it's Bergzall might have only trained for one session for all we know. We just don't know, do we? And I said to my mate, look, that must be the only reason why he's not brought him on. That he must have only just come back this week or something like that. Yeah. Because otherwise, it's like for like, isn't it? And then the same with Diarra as well. Albeit, I think we saw it last 5 minutes why Diarra doesn't really play because his decision making is not quite there yet. Is it? But. I did understand it because obviously Headley's got a bit of pace. He's quite direct. I didn't quite understand him upright, but in fairness, Sorba did pull his weight on the left, so he's one of them really. It's give or take. But yeah, the substitution itself, like Nakayama is really good when he comes off the bench. Oddly, when he starts, he's really poor. I don't really get that this season with him. But yeah, I mean, I can understand why, like Chris said, fans are fickle, aren't they? There's a lot of people who go to football just wanting us to win 3-0, but then people who do understand football, it's not as simple as that. So I did understand it. And in the end, I don't think, when Nakayama came on, excluding their goal, I didn't think they had a great deal of joy, particularly that right-hand side. So you could argue in that case it was a good decision.
I think it's a when I really think back to that first half, do you actually think it turned out in a good way that they did score just before half time? Because he might not have changed it up the way he did in the second half. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and pushed us on a bit more.
Yeah, you could argue that. It could also just be a mentality thing. You don't know. He might have got into it at half time and just said, "Look, lads, we're 1-0 down. Like balls at wall here. Let's press him a bit." And to be fair to him, I didn't think we'd be able to press him as well as we did, but it proper reminded me when we played Leicester when we were under Warnock. And it was that second half was, I don't know what other fans think, but I thought that was very Warnock-esque. Because before game, I said to my mate, I reckon if Warnock was in charge, would have got something here, would have just tried to press him. And then obviously under Darren Moore, he's a bit, I don't know if he's tentative or still working his side out, but apart from Ipswich in the second half against Coventry in the first 20 minutes against QPR, we've not really pressed teams, have we? We just kind of sat off, have a look what happens, and then just kind of go from there.
I think, how much do you think the kind of current run is down to the injury kind of I would call it a crisis, because I think when Harrett goes off today, he becomes our 9th injured player this season.
Is that what it is? God.
Yeah, the official, HTFC.com notes listed 8 before the game, and it was impossible for me to see the way Harrett grabs at his hamstring, immediately sits down on the field. I would be very surprised if we see Harrett come back here anytime in the next couple of weeks. It looks like he did his hamstring pretty well there. While we're talking to Lee, just a quick invitation to everybody else. If you want to speak up, by all means, hit the request button. And Lee, carry on. Tom asked you about, your thoughts on the injury situation here.
Yeah, well, the Harrett one, I'm in Cowshed, so I thought he was an impact thing. I didn't realise he'd pulled it. That's put this minimum 4 weeks really into a hamstring.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I think with injuries, I think Warner could struggle with injuries we've got, if I'm being honest with you. I think any manager who comes in and has to deal with the level of injuries that we have, which we seem to get every single season unless we do well, I don't understand it. But you've got Radona, most creative player by a mile. We're very lucky Hogg and Healy can't injure because we would be knackered. Hogg's been top 3 players for me this season. Healy stand out this season as well. But then it also comes down to bloody transfer window, doesn't it? Now, obviously, they don't. If I was an owner, I wouldn't. If I'm going to get rid of Warnock soon, I'm not going to give him money either. I understand that, but at the same time, like, we're so light up front, it's a joke.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as Harrett went off, yes, when Bergson came on, should I rather? Yes, he's a good attacking outlet, but he's not an out-and-out striker. There was a couple of times the ball went across the box and there were no one in the middle. I thought Corot did a better job up top, to be honest, than Bergson did, but he just kind of likes to go up and do what he wants, really, doesn't he?
He asked a lot of Karoma. He asked a lot of Karoma today. What did you actually think of that? I mean, he ended up playing, I think, 3 positions in the end.
Yeah, he did. I thought he was very much stick on last defender, and a couple of times, if we had Danny Ward, he'd have dropped in, played a bit of midfield, and then we might have created some attacks. But when I don't think Karoma's ever played up top for us, has he? He's very much play on wing, cut inside, take his man on into, so he just won't be used to it.
Yeah.
I felt like both Bergsorg and Karoma felt like players who have just come back from injury, right? Like just that half beat slow on the ball, just a half beat slow, making the right play, making the right pass. We had the play where Headley ended up getting yellow carded because he's gotten frustrated. He's been called offsides and he boots the ball into the stands, which he shouldn't. Like, that shouldn't happen. Just keep your cool. Just kick the ball 10 feet. Don't kick it 30, right? And then you don't get the yellow card. But that felt like a really good example to me of Karoma, being sort of in the right position, but just not being all the way back to, I don't want to say game fitness, but certainly just the mental speed of the game for both him and Bergsorg. It felt like they were just that little bit slow, which happens when you come back from injury, right? You just haven't played in an actual competitive, like you cannot simulate playing an actual game in practice. You can't do it. Training it's not the same. And so hopefully, again, we'll see a little bit better from both those guys going forward now that, they are back in the team. They did get, a decent number of minutes under their feet. I would be surprised. I don't know. Moore's probably not going to go public with this, but I would bet a large sum of money that the reason we saw Yuta come on, in exchange for Harrett was because he felt like Bergsorg wasn't ready to go 60 minutes. He feels like Diarra maybe isn't a player that you want to have out there for 60 minutes right now. And, that substitution happened, I think, the 25th to 26 minutes. So we're talking about, a good 65 to 70 minutes more to play there. I would hope that that's not the substitution we would see in a couple of weeks when the bench is a little bit healthier than it was today.
Yeah, exactly. Lee, thank you very much for coming on. I mean, that's another shout out to anyone else. If anyone else wants to get on, get involved, give us a request and we will get you on, because we've got Jack lined up next, I believe, Matt.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jack's requested is coming in now.
Hi, Jack. How are you doing?
I'm all right.
What are your thoughts on today, man?
I think, first half was very poor. It was a lot. It was a lot of what we've been complaining about over the last few games. It was quite obvious to see for the first half because we had nothing going forward. We were just sitting off and letting Southampton come on to us. And I thought we were okay defensively, but the goal was inevitable when it happened. And I think it was what someone mentioned earlier about. It was just, I reckon it's probably a half-time team talk where Moore's just gone, right, lads, we're already a goal down. I think we've just got to go for it. And he changed the setup and tried to make us a bit more attacking. And I think it was the second half was a lot more of what we've been hoping for. It was still abundantly clear we are incredibly lacking in quality because a lot of the players were just making a lot of errors, and I think it was also confidence that come with that because a lot of them were getting into okay shooting positions, but they were just too afraid to take it on, and there was quite a lot of frustration coming from the crowd at times because of people just not wanting to take a chance. Well, I think
what did you
certainly the effort.
What did you think of the crowd?
Players like Jackson especially, and Headley, I thought, was quite good. Sorba, I think, was good in patches. It showed that we can take teams on, even though we don't have the quality that, like, we can graft, we can grind out points like we did under Warnock. That even though we do have a very poor squad on paper, we can still put up somewhat of a fight in this division and at least keep ourselves clear of the bottom three.
Yeah, on that, all the results pretty much kind of went for us today, didn't they? Can you hear me? Jack, can you hear me now?
No, it's barely anything.
Oh.
Might just be my headphones.
Yeah.
I can hear you okay, Tom.
I can hear you great, mate. Jack, I can hear what you've just said. I could hear everything. I'll try shout one question down to you then. What are your hopes kind of going forward with Darren Moore then, given the squad he's got and these next couple of games?
Jack, I think you may have muted. There you are.
I'd muted it just so that I won't get a lot of feedback because I had to change it to my speakers.
Yep.
Yeah, I think, well, obviously first priority is like try and not get players injured.
Yeah.
I don't. That's not something we can really control too much. But I think really it's just. I think we need to try and be more aggressive. Like just try and play on the front foot, because I think when we do, ones that also come to mind is Coventry, like his first game, that we didn't. It was the first we were seeing first half that we had not going up front, and like it was Bergsorg and Carone playing as two strikers, and it wasn't clicking. But then
that didn't work at all.
Second half we changed it, and we were looked a lot better. I think there are times that we have actually looked okay, and I think it's when we try to actually take teams on rather than sitting off and just letting them play towards us. Because I don't think we shouldn't play like we did against Hull and just try and hold that for a clean sheet. I think as much as batterings obviously are going to hurt, I also think I'd maybe rather that and actually at least try and take teams on, even if we might end up shipping a lot at the back, because at least because we have actually shown we still can defend well at times. And I think we look better when we're actually trying to take teams on and try and be aggressive.
Moore actually mentioned Hull in that in his post-match presser, and kind of alluded that Hull was very similar to today, and we were like minutes away from probably getting that's a good point kind of thing. And he touches on that. The lack of, I mean, it's mad to think, isn't it, that today you didn't have Lee Nichols, Ben Wiles, Danny Ward, Jack Radoni, etc. We are bare bones at the moment. I don't know what more we kind of expected going into that game today. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
Do you think it's promising that second half, especially, shows that there are players in this squad that can push and have a go at teams who are that next level kind of quality?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I think I'll fully admit when I saw the lineup when I went pub, like I'd seen that we didn't have Nichols in and Maxwell, and I did have a bit of a shock. But credit to him, he actually had a pretty solid game, and I think I'm glad that we can, even if we do have a lot of key players out, we can still try to take teams on. We are still obviously lacking players like Radoni and Wiles that like do offer a lot of creativity in the middle of the parks, and something that we are clearly very lacking. Because even in the second half, when we're talking about how much better we played and like how much graft the lads put in, it was abundantly clear that we were still pretty lacking up top, and especially in the middle of the park. I thought it was like very much just reliant on the wings and like trying to cross the ball into the box, hoping somebody's going to get their head on it.
Yeah. Jack, just doing a quick shout out. Anyone else who wants to get involved, give us a nudge quickly, because we're obviously not going to go on all night. So if you want to have a chat about, do a bit of venting or praise of town, then give us a shout now. Jack, just one final thing from you. What did you think of the atmosphere today? I mean, I think both halves were quite different, but where you were sat, what did it feel like?
Yeah, well, I were in the middle at Cowshed, and I thought at times it would like either just flat or even like, and it especially towards in the first half, it was getting quite toxic. I thought like there was points in that game where I was like genuinely starting to worry that it was creeping towards the Fotheringham days when the fans were just getting hatred towards the club. But in the second half, I felt that, yeah, as you said, it were very different, that it still felt a bit flat. And I think it's because the fans have like sort of like not got much faith in the players to actually create some end product. But it was definitely better. Like there was at least some amount of optimism there, and there was like some support behind the lads because they could at least see what they're trying to do, and you can at least see they're at least trying to graft for a goal, even if it isn't going to come to fruition. Which, lucky for us, it did. And well, look, I don't think I need to say that after the goal came, yeah, the atmosphere was very good.
Yeah, it's very rare, isn't it, these days when we score. So I bet it was great in that Cowshed today when that went in.
Oh, it was definitely.
Nice one. I don't know have we got anyone else lined up? I'm not sure if we have. But thank you, Jack, for coming on. Anyone else coming in? Jerry, have you got anything else to add on today whilst you're here?
Yeah, I would say just to build on the atmosphere comment, and again, would have been there tonight. Unfortunately, there's an ocean between me and John Smith, so it made things a little difficult. But even, from where I was sitting, I think that first 15 minutes of the second half were critical in terms of the atmosphere. Everybody, it felt like definitely the fans were unhappy with the Nakayama substitution, which honestly, no matter who's on the bench or isn't on the bench, you're never going to get a positive reaction from the fans when you are at home early in the game and you sub off a central striker and you sub on a defender. Like, just that's never going to go over well. I don't blame Moore for making the substitution. I think his hand was forced by who was and wasn't available and how, like we said, healthy, how fit Bergsorg actually was. But I also don't think you can look at the fans and say, oh, well, they should just simply understand that that's his only option. That's never going to happen. Obviously, you give up the goal going into halftime, could have been very demoralizing. I think you could hear the boos, over the broadcast at halftime, as Town walked off. And so, credit to the players, because that opening 10 to 15 minutes of the second half, even if Town didn't get a goal, they had to come out and show something, that it wasn't going to be just another repeat of the first half where they sat back, just let Southampton, pretty much do whatever they wanted with the ball. It just could not be a repeat of the first half over that first 10 to 15 minutes. There had to be something for Town fans to latch on to there. And again, two more in the players' credit. I thought Thomas was particularly good in that stretch, at both ends of the pitch, both defending and going forward. Really came out, gave Town's fans something to hang their hats on and give them a little bit of spark, some entertainment, and things just really picked up from there. So that, to me, even though Town didn't score in that period, that was the critical period of the match. There was that first 10 to 15 minutes where you say, they're actually playing football. They're actually coming out and giving the John Smiths and the Cowshed, everybody something to cheer for. Was really, really encouraging. And I'll say this, something I've thought about. I would agree that the first half obviously is poor. Didn't really generate any gilt-edged chances. Southampton hit the post. They scored. It's 1-0. The one thing I will say in defense of Town's approach in that first half is that, Stephen Chicken has pointed this out, a few times. When Town have collapsed, and shipped 4 goals, it's usually been after they give up that really early one, right? Happening against Birmingham. That goal given up in the first 15 to 20 minutes has basically always been just a sign of a total collapse coming under Moore. So I don't blame Moore, particularly given the problems in the squad, for saying, okay, we're going to sit back, absorb stuff for at least the first 15 to 20 minutes. The disappointment in that first half is that Southampton really, they definitely had all of the ball, but they didn't really create a lot of chances in that opening 15 to 20 minutes. But then Town make the substitution, and Town can't really build on that in the second part of the first half at all. They rode out that first wave, but then didn't build on that at all. And eventually Southampton hit the post and eventually scored themselves at the end of the first half. That was the disappointing part of the first half, not necessarily those opening exchanges.
Well, that's it. I don't think I feel like that kind of last 15 minutes before the first half was the only real big bit of pressure Southampton.
Yeah, I would agree.
Put Town under. So, yeah. Anyone else got any views on this? Get involved. Come on, let's hear your opinions on today. Because me and Jerry just can't keep talking about nonsense. I mean, Jerry, it's very it's very what I mean.
Well, we got about 5 more minutes here before we hit the hour mark and really wrap things up.
Yeah. So come on, one more person to get the clicks in. Tell us how you found today. It'd be really good to hear from anyone, because look, me and Jerry get to talk on this platform quite a bit, so it'd be nice to hear what just Town fans who were there today for. Because I wasn't there today, unfortunately. I will be there for the Bristol game though, which will, I'm sure will be nice.
We haven't talked about individual performances a whole lot here, Tom.
Do you know what, Jerry? That was my next thing I was going to ask you. Sorba Thomas, other than Carlos Corberán, I mean, I feel like Corberán got the set pieces out of Sorba, but I feel like Darren Moore is at least getting a player out of Sorba Thomas.
He wasn't perfect. He had one particular counterattack in the first half where he had a couple of guys he could have picked out. I think Karoma and Headley maybe were running forward and just completely played a nothing ball to no one. But other than that, I thought he was very good. A little bit unfortunate, I thought, at the breakaway at the very end of the game where the Southampton keeper, whose name escapes me, did really well to come off his line and shut that down. I really thought, your brain just has that little lizard brain flash, right, where it's like, oh, he's in, and then suddenly Southampton's keeper appears out of nowhere. I thought Sorba was really good. I thought Hellick, as usual, was outstanding. I thought really the whole back line, Pearson, Hellick, Lees, and Maxwell is part of that as well, all did really, really well. You can throw Hogg in there doing his usual bit as well.
Yeah.
But to hold Southampton, which, as we've said again, is one of the best attacking teams in the division, not just for one goal, which they had to work for. That was a very well executed goal. Hellick could do a little better. Pearson could probably do a little bit better on that particular play. You'd like to say, well, these are our best defensive players. Maybe they can kind of rise up to the standard that Southampton's showing there. But some credit to the Saints on that play. It's a very good chip ball into the box. It's a very good run to get onto it. It's a very good run to get across Hellick and finish from Armstrong there. It's not a full, just tip your cap, nothing you can do kind of goal, but it was well worked. And aside from that play, I thought Town's defense handled Southampton pretty well. And again, to do that even in the second half when Town were going forward, I thought was really impressive. Again, just Town in the second half, they weren't world beaters, but they looked like the sort of team we want to see Town be. We know that there's holes in the squad. We know that, particularly at central striker, on the wings, maybe, we don't have all the pieces that we would want Darren Moore to be able to choose from, but he's got enough to at least have that kind of performance that we saw there in the second half. It doesn't have to look the way it did against Leeds. It doesn't have to look the way it did against Hull, where they just sit back for all 90 minutes, and we have our fingertips on the ledge and you're just hoping that they can get through without, slipping off. And I don't blame Moore for saying, oh, well, we were a couple of minutes away from everybody getting clapped off and everybody being happy. But more often than not, you can't hang on by your fingertips for 90 whole minutes. It's not going to work as a week in, week out strategy. We needed to see something like we saw today, and to borrow David Hartrick's phrase, may it continue. It didn't last time. Like I said, we've seen glimpses of this, but we haven't seen any sort of maintained level of this kind of play under Darren Moore as of yet. Let's hope we get there. Matt.
Yeah. I'm going to do, right, here we go. Mark, Jack, Kieran, Rob, Liam, Stephen, you're listening. If you want a quick chat, get involved now. Request to speak or forever hold your peace? Because me and Jerry are going to go and have a few more pints tonight. What time is it there, Jerry? Is it like mid-afternoon?
It is. It's 1:30 here. And rest assured, the big, my American college football team that, I grew up with, we're having our big derby day today. So
nice.
There's going to be a few of those. Yeah.
Excellent. You have to let us know how that goes, mate. Yeah.
If anybody is interested, you can Google Stephen Fry Iron Bowl and see a little clip of what it's like to be, a Brit in Jordan-Hare Stadium where Auburn, U.S. football gets played. That's the game that's happening today. Stephen Fry Iron Bowl. It's worth about 3.5 minutes of your time if anybody's interested.
So what? Sorry, Jerry. Who's the teams that are playing today?
I'm an Auburn fan. They're playing Alabama. That's our arch rivals.
Nice.
So I won't bore everybody by getting into the details, but it's the pinnacle of the season for my U.S. college football team. So we'll leave it at that. I'm just saying it's only 1:30 here. It's still a very big sporting day from here on out. And I again appreciate Huddersfield Town giving me a positive start to like I said, a very big sports afternoon for yours truly.
Nice one, Jerry. Well, yeah, we'll keep tabs on that. Look, Jerry, it's we've nearly been going for about an hour, so yep. I guess if no one else wants to have a chat, Matt, has anyone else requested? I don't think they have they?
People are leaving in droves, Tom, after you tried to get them on, unfortunately. So we're so I think that pretty much wraps it up, doesn't it? So if you like these, if you want to get involved and you do like this as a platform, let us know. It's something that we're happy to try, and we're always happy to try new things. So yeah, if you do like this and you do want to get involved, let us know, and we'll do more of these things. But if not, then we won't. It's quite simple, isn't it? We try and do what people would like to hear or listen to. So I think, Tom, that is pretty much all we've got time for this week. A point for us. So keep an eye out for the main podcast. Episode 191 will be out very late tomorrow evening or early Monday morning, and then Tom will be back hopefully with an Auburn fan himself, Brady Frost. Yeah, thanks for that, Tom. Brady Frost.
I just realised I could do sound effects throughout this whole thing. Sorry.
I need to work that one out. But
you only just realised that, Tom.
I think we know when they say. I think we know it's time to pull it when the sound effects come out, don't we? So everyone, and that's the perfect way to go out.
Toilet flushing.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for joining it, and like I say, if you do like this, we'll do more of them. Up the town.
Up the town.
Appreciate it, y'all.
There's a team that is dear to its followers. The colours are bright blue and white. They're a team of renown, and they're the pride of the town. And the game of football is their delight. And all the while upon the field of play, thousands loudly cheer them on the way. Often you can hear them say, who can beat the town today? And then the bells will ring so merrily, and every goal shall be a memory. So town, play up and bring that cup back to Huddersfield. So town, play up and bring the cup back to Huddersfield.